Folks, it is January the 5th, 2021, and we are picking at back where we left off Christmas break. Hope you had a great Christmas break. And our current chapter is chapter 27. That's XXVI. And it's what we're going over now is not the first section, but the middle part over the Second Carthaginian War. So once again, we see this very powerful city-state turned empire. Carthage, found in North Africa, is in competition with being the great world power of their region against Rome. It's kind of like the center of our class right now. And we have the following terms up on the board. Rome after the First War, Hamilcar, Hannibal, and Hannibal and Gaul. So those are our four terms up there. I'm going to discuss the class 1 second. Some images I have. And all that good stuff. All right, kids. So once again, we left off, and these two great powers were at war. Like, one of the reasons why I think that we examine these kind of things is like, you can see that not just for like politics and stuff like that, but sometimes whenever you have two very powerful things, and it could even be companies, or it could be like something that goes on in a workplace. It could have to do with a lot of things. You're going to have competition. And these two competitive powers might not be able to coexist. They're two different kinds of societies. They want the same thing. It's irreconcilable. And whenever it does come to things like politics or world powers, this kind of thing happens throughout the world. Wars are started over two great powers competing with one another. We almost had a big example of that with in the United States back in the Cold War. Yeah. And it definitely happened whenever you had two different alliances opposing one another before World War One. These kind of things could always happen. Now, after the First Carthaginian War, Rome was now generally at peace, and they had possession of Sicily. And if you recall, they treated the people who were like themselves, who were like the Latins, right? They treated them much like Roman citizens. The people who were not were allowed to conduct their affairs any way they wanted, but they could not have war without Rome's permission. They had to pay taxes. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, they left them alone. Rome did, of course, have some problems with pirates, which they put down. They're going to have more pirate problems later. Now they finally have a functioning navy, so they can actually do something about it. And then, once again, surprise, surprise, they're going to have problems with the Gauls. Those are those barbarian people of the north, what we might call France and Germany and Austria today. So, if you remember, Rome definitely listened to prophecies, and they had one prophecy they remembered to where one day the Gauls would live in part of Rome, or that not live in part of Rome, but would be in Rome. So what did they do?
Bury two Gauls alive. The only reasonable solution.
Yeah, so they buried a couple of Gauls. I'm sure that these guys were none too happy to, be vacationing in Italy that year.
Right.
So, yeah,
they don't even get a good view. Like, you can't even. It's just dirt.
Well, I mean, it's actually they say that's supposed to be one of the worst ways to go too. It's supposed to be very torturous.
Well,
so
when Rome buried people alive, usually it was fairly lofty for burying people.
Well, yeah, like the Vestal Virgins, right? If
they would have their own room and then get food for a while, and then they just starve. But here you just like choke on dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd suffocate. I mean, the dirt, kind of like that's why you're not supposed to bury people too deep in sand at a beach, because the sand it's heavy, and yeah, whenever your chest decompresses from breathing, the sand will move down, and your lungs can't expand again because your chest can't expand. And so eventually you're just going to suffocate. Of course, if it's over your face,
if you're in quicksand, you should there's a thing where you should just lie down on your back.
I've always heard you're supposed to be still, but I don't know.
Because Well, yeah, you're supposed to be like, you're not supposed to make as many moves as possible, but like
Yeah, 'cause
lying
you
on your
displace
back,
it.
it makes it so where like it can't pull you down. You're just kind of stuck on the top, and you can just fall throughout there,
I guess if you can, but I know like
like buoyancy,
if you're
buoyancy.
like, let's say if you're walking in the woods in the dark, sometimes you just fall. You know, and you
Yes.
can't catch yourself. You just like, there have been a couple of times I was like walking in the woods in the dark, and I just fall into a ditch, and I'm just like, boop, like up to here in water. And I'm like, I didn't know what was happening.
Fantastic. This is just right.
Yeah. So yeah, and so the Romans are going to eventually, however, use the military to defeat the Gallic invaders, just like normal. This is a bust of Hamilcar. Remember, as y'all mentioned before, the father of Hannibal. He's going to be a great general of Carthage. Remember, Carthage is kind of like it's an oligarchy, much like Sparta. They're going to have elders kind of run the city. And so Hamilcar isn't a king, he's a general. He's like kind of like we think of today. So he's not like really even a politician. He's going to be very diplomatic. He's going to be very good at bribing people and being lenient to them to win them over to his side. He's going to build the army that his son Hannibal will eventually use to invade Rome. And much like the people of Carthage, they are very embarrassed about their loss of Sicily to Rome, and they want revenge. They want to be the top dog. And so, as you see from this helmet, like that's a very Greek helmet. So you can see that they have a lot of, much like the Phoenicians, near Israel, they had a lot of Greek influence. This is a map of what we're going to see during his time before his death. He's going to be able to take over a lot of Spain. And here you see red is Rome. And these guys are going to be off and on. They're actually going to fall to Carthage during the war. And so Carthage is a big empire. And he's going to be very successful. And one of the reasons he goes to Spain is very famous for its silver mines. So by taking over this area, he's able to reap in a lot of cash that the Carthaginians are going to use to make a big bad army. And so he's getting everything ready. And your book's correct to say that the Carthaginian army was from multiple kind of cultures and societies, kind of like the Persians, but they're going to drill them to be more professional like the Romans. And at the same time, they're paid to fight. So they're mercenaries in a sense. And of course, famously, we have where Hamilcar is going to make, like ancient people did. They always had like a sacrifice and they would read omens and stuff like that before they went to war. And yeah, so he has his son Hannibal swear to never be friends with the Romans.
That's a
Always
buff
good.
9-year-old. That's not.
Yeah, he probably ate oatmeal every day. So,
Maybe he's that short.
Or maybe
or
he's just tall.
Yeah.
You see, Hamilcar is the short one.
Yes.
Hannibal is the tall one.
Maybe they just didn't know who to draw.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it's just cheap drawing. And so here's a bust of Hannibal. And so Hannibal was known as being pretty brilliant. And of course, we had, what was his name? Habrusal or Habrusabal or whatever.
As Dribble.
Yeah, his uncle was in charge of the war for a couple of years.
And then he died.
Yeah, he died because, war's dangerous. And so he is then, as your book says, he's going to get permission from the Carthaginian government to go on this war. He's going to cut through Spain. And cutting through Spain, he's going to gain allies. This is the city Saguntum. This is the city where they were Roman allies. And they actually chose to destroy their belongings and then take their own lives, many of them, rather than fall in the hands of Rome's enemies. Part of the reason is that they knew, it's not because they loved Rome, they knew that if you betrayed Rome, even in face of invasion, Rome was going to get you anyways. And that's what it's like to be a friend of Rome. Everything's cool, but if you go to war and you lose or you surrender to their enemies, they're going to come back and get you for it. Kind of like the mafia.
It's like this.
And so here's the route or the route you see Hannibal's going to take. And here's the Elbow River. Here's the Pyrenees Mountains it's going to cross. Everything's okay. But then things are going to get a little dicey over here. This is where you start. Oh, not well. This is where the Roman battles. But then here it's going to meet with the Gauls. I'm going to have a couple of skirmishes. Cross the Alps once again. Very dangerous. And we're going to talk about all this junk later. Oh yeah, you're at school, so you should talk about it now. And here's some fancy rafts. If you recall, he brought tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and some elephants.
Just like, how do we make boats? It's like, I don't know.
How did he cross those elephants across the Alps?
They marched
Water.
a lot. See, that's one of the things they like for sure, because there's so many sources that say that they came over, right? But the thing is, yeah, these aren't even like the elephants used by Alexander the Great or the Persians. These are much bigger African elephants from sub-Saharan Africa. So they're very warm climate elephants too. So they think it must have been like a massive logistics planning, like super plan to have enough food to be able to keep them warm enough. And just like they're not made for elevation. They're not made for cold. Yeah, they must have had to like give them like super calories. I don't know, like
I'd give them all their rations just to like, make sure they have some elephants.
yeah, I don't know how they would have done it.
My thought is, if they're going up in the Alps, they have to get them enough oxygen.
Well,
They can just think they're
you're not going to
trucks.
put them in a. You definitely wouldn't want to get into that elevation, which is one of the reasons why you need like a good pathfinder to find you a place to go. Like, it can seem like a long way. Hello. Yes, ma'am. But it's trust me, it's always better to take a long way around a mountain than what looks like the short way over it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure.
Some 5,000
Hmm?
feet. You would need some 5,000 feet.
Or
I mean, well, the thing is, if you ever go to like say Austria, for example, there's a lot of valleys and stuff like that. It's not all super high elevation. There's like people build most of the towns are in the valleys. Like little valleys around. Very nice looking. But yeah, in any case, we're pretty sure it was hard. We're pretty sure it was cold and chilly. Like, see, even have like horses helping. Like this person thinks maybe even they had like horses helping the elephants go along. And it's like, I don't want to
how
go.
much horsepower does an elephant have?
A lot, I would imagine.
And now it's got like, actually horses don't even have a whole horsepower, I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's something. It's supposed to be like a specific kind of horse equals 1 horsepower. But I don't know if it's like what kind of horse.
Oh, no.
Yeah, here we go. Just kind of snowing along. Here, this guy's like rubbing it. It's like, it's okay, fella.
Oh. Oh, and they have little blankets, little elephants have blankets.
Yeah, I would imagine you'd want to wrap that thing up. Even their feet.
It's a pig in a,
Now, sometimes, of course, there were accidents. Like, that would just be like the worst ever. To be a guy riding on an
Imagine, yeah.
elephant, then it just goes
he's
head
like
over
upside
heels.
down. He's like falling off.
Other elephants not very happy. If you know one thing about
No, he probably
elephants,
pushed him off. That elephant looks like he just pushed him off.
elephants are very social animals. Like, they'll even mourn for one another if they die.
Oh, have you seen those? Yeah, those videos of like elephants crying.
Yeah,
So sad.
they try to save each other and all that stuff.
Some of those guys are just like, that
Well-
thing was so expensive and you just let it walk off a cliff.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't their fault. The guy led them on a really steep part of the mountain.
Yeah, if you remember, there was some treachery from the Gauls. Like, some of them were like,
We're friendly. Proceeds to lead them off the cliff.
well, one of the reasons is, I mean, like, what happens at the end of the battle in the Iliad? You always loot the corpse, right? So they were looking for some corpses to loot, I'm sure.
Well,
Uh,
if they managed to kill all of Hannibal's troops, then they could just steal all of their swords.
And their elephants,
Yeah.
if they were alive.
And like people of Gaul
For meat.
were many of them were actually, you could say, were still kind of, some of them were still in the Stone Age, basically. Like they didn't live in villages. Only the wealthy could afford like metal work for like weapons and stuff like that. A lot of them, they were just using the things they could work with around them. So that would seem like unimaginable wealth what these armies were walking through with. It's, bandits being bandits. They're just like, hey, if I can just hide, knock a couple of them down, I'll just go down the trail in a couple of weeks and go get my stuff.
Guys being dudes. Guys being
That's my guess, right? All right. So Rome after the First War. So what did we say about Rome after the First War?
They expanded.
Expanded. Yeah, that's what Rome likes to do.
Expand.
Yeah. So where did they expand?
North.
North. Yeah. And this was territory they already gained, but they had some colonies. They just wanted to make sure it's more Romanized. So what did they build in the north?
Oh, what's it called? It's like a bunch of people where it's like, they're not citizens, but they still work for you. There's a word. I know it's in.
Oh, they built colonies. Is that what you're saying?
There's like a.
But they built something that Rome was very known for too. Like you walk on it.
Oh,
Oh yeah, they built the Flaminian Way.
I think they aqueduct.
Which much of it's still there today. How did they treat the people in their expanded areas?
like
Were they
they're
eating them?
subjects, not like friends.
Well, they're like, okay, so hold on.
Some were. So yeah,
some-
non-Latins treated as subjects. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have much in common with you. You're just whatever. And it's really, really normal throughout most human societies throughout most time, right? That's why it's the exception. That's why you point it out when you find it in history when somebody's like totally egalitarian with people of different backgrounds. You're like, wow, that's weird. Let's point that out. It's not that, oh, that's so normal. Let's talk about it. No. All right. Non-Latins treated as subjects. What if you did have more in common with Roman people?
Or Latins. You were treated. You could have become citizen.
Yeah, Latins could become citizens. Yeah, that's going to change later. They're going to become more and more open to other people later. And becoming a citizen was pretty cool. You got extra legal protection. You basically had a different set of laws that could protect you. If you were in Rome at the right time of year, you could vote. And of course, yeah, they also expanded into Sicily. They expanded up north into Gaul. They moved somewhat towards the east, but they weren't going to quite go into places like Ilaria yet. Eastern Europe. So, okay, now Hamilcar. Who is Hamilcar again?
Hannibal's dad.
Yeah. So okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, who is he a general for? We'll get that in a minute.
Carthage.
Yeah. So.
Would be
General.
a Carthaginian. How do you
Carthaginian.
Carthaginian.
Uh-huh. General for Carthage. And what will he be known for doing?
Building the army.
Yeah. So.
He also won that. Oh wait, no, that's the other.
Why are you his son?
And he was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like in war terms. He didn't like kill everyone. He was like, y'all want money?
Yeah. Known for being humane, I guess is the way to put it. Known for being humane. And all that stuff. All right, yeah, we can end that there. And he has a seething hatred for Rome. So that's one thing we see here is like really, like if you study the Persian Wars, like Alexander versus Persia later on, when we're talking about Alexander's invasion, you'll see that ancient authors were actually kind of nice to their enemies. I mean, yeah, they called them like weak and stuff like that, but they didn't call them like monsters and stuff like that. Well, it's the same here. The Roman authors would talk about just how like brilliant, humane, and admirable Hamilcar and Hannibal were, even though they were their sworn enemies. So there's respect there. And with that respect comes a warning. It's if somebody's tough enough to come at you, they might be really tough. So maybe you should respect that. You know, respect their intelligence as well. All right, so Hannibal. Who was Hannibal again?
He used his dad's army to kill people. He was also a Carthaginian.
Carthaginian. Yeah.
Carthaginian.
Yeah. Son of Hamilcar.
I almost just wrote Hamilton.
See. Swore to be an enemy of Rome.
What about Hamilton truck?
I don't know. What about Hamil Bike? So, son of Hamilcar swore to be enemy of Rome. And yeah, so yeah, like you're saying, will use this army. And where does he go first?
He wanted to go to Sicily.
Well, he's gonna skip Sicily. I think that's what it said. He's gonna use this army. Where's his invasion to Rome going to start?
The North Road.
Yeah, he doesn't just sail across the ocean. That's what the Romans are expecting.
He's gonna get like the flank.
Yeah, to invade Rome from the north. / Alps. And we'll of course learn more about it tomorrow. But I mean, this is they're not going to expect it. This is going to be very helpful. You're going to find, like later on, as you take more history courses, that by coming at the direction that the enemy's not expecting is super helpful. I mean, strategically for entire armies, but also like tactically. Whenever you're talking about small units, the flank is like the basis for almost all military fights because going front on front assault usually makes you die. So, yeah, I mean, it's like you think about like the Korean War. I mean, they're going to do the same thing after North Korea basically takes over all the peninsula. They're just going to go whoop, attack them from the top and break. World War II. I mean, the Allies first invaded through Italy and pushed up north before D-Day, and then where they invaded up north. I mean, it's just how it is. Hannibal and Gaul. So he's pushing through Spain because he had to get through Spain before he gets to the Alps. And what was it like when he met the Gauls?
They acted friendly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so many of the Gauls were friendly. How did he make them their friends?
By being like, we'll give you money if you don't hurt us, please.
Yeah, many Gauls were bribed into friendship. And that's pretty normal throughout most of the world, most history. A bribe is something people expect. And some joined him. And aided him. But what did others do? Like
They
others,
tried to lead him off a cliff.
yeah,
Others tried to kill him.
yeah. Others tried to, let's say, ambush, because he had one major ambush that was attempted as they were crossing that major river, and then of course you had the other. They're on the mountains and they're having boulders raining down on top of their head.
Are those the guys up there like, trying to roll the boulders, or are those just some guys like walking down the mountain?
I can't tell because,
Poor elephant.
like, to me, like the guys on the very far left, like it looks like one guy is just like totally pitching a boulder, but how does
What?
that guy has to be like?
He's
really
like
strong.
facing like the mountain though. He's not facing anyone.
I think maybe his hands are just on his head, like he's just like mourning, like he's like, no, no.
My elephant.
It's like, I even gave him a name.
That was my entire life savings.
All my taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, well, I don't think, I think these guys were like more the recipient of tax
dollars. Hey, folks, that's going to end our lecture today. We're going to go over the last third of this chapter tomorrow, and in the Second Carthaginian War, and then when we come back on Thursday, we're going to talk about the third. All right, talk to you later.
I wrote for Jesus. Jesus.
Yes, sir.